What is the grant for children with disabilities? Of course, you're going to leave here with a much better understanding of what it is. It is a program which was mentioned in a budget address of the Prime Minister year before, I think it was. And basically, it is a non-means tested grant of $200 per month, per child, of course, per disabled child, or per child with a disability. Okay, and of course, why is this grant a non-means tested grant? In other words, we do not require persons to be poor or indigent to receive the grant. It's a, if you can call it that, a non-means tested grant, or a grant that would be given out universally. Well, why a non-means tested grant? There are two compelling reasons. The first is that usually when assistance is targeted, it carries a certain stigma, okay? And so allowing this grant to be non-means tested means that it is going to get rid of the stigma that is usually associated with targeted or means-tested programs. Okay, secondly, we think that the potential for exclusion of persons in need that can be associated with inefficient targeting versus the cost of the leakage that we would have when we give it to everyone who meets the criteria, okay, justifies us making this a non-means tested grant, okay? So two compelling reasons why this is not a means tested grant, but one that would be afforded to all disabled children who meet the other criteria of the program. Okay. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome someone to welcome you more formally. And I have the pleasure of calling on Mrs. Michelle Edwid, who is a welfare officer at our ministry, at the Ministry of Social Transformation, to formally welcome you here.
We are delighted to have you here to participate and share in this official launch of the Disability Grant Program for Differently Abled Children. Thanks for accepting the invitation to attend, particularly since many of you travel the distance. This serves to remind us all just how important our work is, not only to the children of St. Lucia, but to the entire nation by extension. Today marks a significant milestone as it shows the government of St. Lucia's commitment to actively raising the quality of life for every differently abled child, a clear demonstration of the rights-based approach to development, a public demonstration that all children, regardless of race, creed, or circumstance, have right to achieve their full potential. Our task here today is to make it possible through the provision of practical, step-by-step assistance to these children. The venue could not have been more appropriate, as it marks an occasion that will remain with us not only today, but in the continuation of our goals to achieving equality for all. Thanks to the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we are aware of rights in many areas. That 1948 declaration is as pertinent today as it was then, and it clearly articulates the full development of every child. We are honored to have you partake in this achievement with us today. Therefore, without deliberating any further, I wish to welcome you to the official launch of the Disability Grant for Differently Abled Children, and to urge you that throughout our planning and national efforts, that we endeavor to always incorporate vulnerable groups into our development agendas. Welcome.
I feel privileged to be a part of the launch of the grant for children with disability today. While the grant, as Mr. Cadet said, while the grant is a non-means tested one, The grant, the disability grant, is free money to aid children and adolescents who are blessed with a disability. This is a humanitarian gesture undertaken by the government. It is a basic human rights available in keeping with the Convention of the Rights of the Child within reach of all children with disability in St. Lucia. This is possible today through a collaboration of several agencies, including government and non-government, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Social Transformation, Ministry of Finance, and non-government organizations, including the Child Developmental Center and the National Child Development Committee. The grant provides for children with disability to have a better life. It will assist parents meet the cost of maintaining the lives of sons and daughters of St. Lucia with one form of disability or another. With bad times, we are experiencing bad times now, and it is ahead of us. It is hitting our country today. But families with a child or children with disability will generally have a harder time because they need a little more money to be able to function. Who are the beneficiaries of this grant? They are children who need extra help with personal care or have mobility problems. To be more specific, those children are in need of care that require continuous supervision and frequent assistance throughout the day, and those who have difficulty walking or getting around. The disability grant can also be used for medical needs, which we know can be very costly. It can be used for transportation to assist to access school. It can also be used to provide nutritious meals to the beneficiaries. What we do not encourage from this grant, while it is free money in the hands of families, it should not be used to pay back debt that they may have while a child with a disability is left neglected. The money can be used in any way, as long as it can better the life of the children with disability. Apart from those two beneficiaries, I envisage indirect benefits to national development, where other family members and the community will begin to advocate on behalf of children and even adults with disability through the reduction of barriers and to promote inclusion. And this afternoon, I would really like to take the opportunity to do a little bit of advocacy. Children with disability would like to be referred as children with disability and not disabled children. People with disability rather than disabled people. They are people first, they are children first, and the disability second. So we refer to them as child with disability and not disabled child. No longer will children with disability have to stay at home, but this grant forces them to be out of their homes to access the resources currently available in St. Lucia, however limited those resources they may be. I applaud the government and people of St. Lucia for this humanitarian gesture. On behalf of my ministry, the Ministry of Education, we look forward to continued collaboration to improve the lives of all children with disability, as they are children first, in the interest, and this will be done in the interest of all children for the development of our nation, St. Lucia at large. I thank you.
Persons who are differently able can make a significant contribution to the development of our country, and most of them would like to do so. But sadly, there are many societal constraints that prevents that from happening. It's ultimately the responsibility of the state to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. And so that's why this commitment by the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance for this universal grant for persons, for children and young persons who are differently able is so very important, because it's happening in a landscape where we have significant budget cuts, but the Prime Minister was very committed in ensuring that that grant was not touched, and we were able this year to ensure that support is provided to these children and to these families. I will just tell you briefly how it's going to work as it relates to the grant, how persons can access the grant. As Mr. Kade said earlier, it's a universal grant, so anybody can apply. However, because the resources are quite limited, we won't be able to meet every single need. The grant is going to be $200 per child or young person with a severe disability. With a severe disability, what do I mean by that? The child or young person can't do one of the following: can't see, can't talk, can't hear, one or more of them. So it has to be that the child has a severe disability to be able to qualify for the grant. Again, because it's a very small budget to start with, we won't be able to target everybody, but we are ensuring that those who need it will get it. So that money is going to be available to parents to care for their children, because we also understand that some parents are unable to go out to work, and there are things that you need to be able to do for your kids. I want to reinforce what the officer from the Ministry of Education said, that that money has to be used exclusively for your child and providing support to the child. And so when you are provided with the resources, you have to be honest in yourself to ensure that those resources are directed to the children who need it. The Ministry of Social Transformation, we have already made the application forms available. They are actually in our local council offices. They are also in all our regional offices of the Ministry of Social Transformation. They are in the Child Development Center, or should be at Dennery, and also in Castries. And they will be at the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association. So everybody has access to those forms in your community. You don't have to come down to the ministry to be able to apply for this. You can do it in your community. What is very important is that with each application, everybody has to get a referral to the health center in your community so that the medical screening can be done. I want to emphasize here that through the partnership again with the Ministry of Health, we have a commitment that the medical screening for this program is going to be free, and so persons don't have to worry about a cost attached to that. So once you fill the application form, you do the medical screening, then the Ministry of Social Transformation takes it from there, and we provide the support to you. I want to also mention that we won't be doing cash in hand. We are going to make those payments through your banks or through your credit unions. All right? So that is the general process in terms of how persons will be able to access this grant. I don't want to stay any longer, but before I end, I really want to say thank you to our partners. We could not have come to this point without the partnership of a number of persons. You've heard of the Ministry of Education, very important partner, the Ministry of Health, also very important partners, the Child Development Centers, the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association, the National Council for Persons with Disabilities. I want to recognize today also the staff and the students of the Viewford Special Education Center. They did all of this today, and we want to give them a special thank you. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the staff of the Ministry of Social Transformation in the persons of Mr. Kade, Mrs. Joseph, Ms. Wilson, for your efforts today, but also prior to my joining the ministry, I know that you all had done quite a bit of work in terms of getting the preparatory work done for us to start this grant. So I want to say publicly thank you to all of you. So with these brief remarks, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I want to start this afternoon by paying tribute to two groups of you present here today. I want to pay tribute to the parents of our differently abled children, first of all. And then, when I've done that, also to pay tribute to our special education teachers. Most of us here, maybe all of us, are parents. And what a blessing it is to have children of our own. Our children are very precious gifts. And I guess as I grow older, I want to hold on dearly to mine. And some of the best moments in the normal routine of my life is to have my children come and visit me and talk with me and share experiences with me. But they do more than that. They make me laugh. They make me explore things that I do not always explore. And I give thanks every day. I have no doubt that for the parents here who have differently abled children, their children too, though differently abled, are a blessing to them. They make them laugh. But I have to tell you, I have very special admiration for these parents because their love will be tested more than other parents. They have to give more of their time, more of themselves. They have possibly to work even harder, and they have to sacrifice so much more. And many will not understand this unless they visit the homes of parents with differently abled children. In other words, I'm just trying to say to you that those of us who have children who are blessed with good health and good abilities love our children dearly. We look after them. Sometimes we ourselves talk about our own trials and tribulations bringing up our children. But if, like the parents of the differently abled children, if you are charged with looking after them, it takes so much more out of you as a human being. So much more out of you for the love that you have, so much more out of you for the care, so much more out of you for the discipline so much more out of you for your own sense of compassion, because you too, you are sacrificing a lot of your personal lives. But you know what? There is no better and greater test, as I said, than the test of love when you have to look after differently able children. It is its equal measure that I have respect and admiration for the teachers of differently able children. You may have troublesome children in your classroom who present you with challenges of one kind or another. But it is a totally different experience when you have to look after children who are differently abled. Every child who is differently abled is a special child in his or her own way with a special condition. You have to bring together a multiplicity of skills, of different kinds of skills. And then more than anybody else in the world, you have to be patient. Yes, there is this thing called love we have spoken about, but it's a different quality of love that you have to give. It has to come from deep within your soul, deep within your heart. And then you have to stand in the shoes of the parents themselves, because you're given the responsibility of looking after a special child. And so, when I visit centers like this and I see the teachers at work, and don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, because I see them at work nearly every Christmas when they come to the official residence to share a moment with me, the leader of the opposition, and others on those occasions. I love to see the children, how happy they are just to be there frolicking on the lawns of the official residence, enjoying the day. But I can also see the energy, the passion that the teachers put into looking after them. Parents, you carry many burdens. But then, whenever you have the moment, do tell these teachers thank you too for what they're doing for your own children, because they are not just ordinary teachers, they are very special teachers. And so today I want to take a moment to thank both of you, to say that we all understand the trials, the tribulations, but we're united by one common thing. We understand the value of love. And every child who is challenged, who is differently able to understand that word love. They know when they're receiving it, they know when they're getting it. And so, thank you so much for bearing so gracefully the burdens of your life and of the daily challenges that you face. The government of St. Lucia has been thanked for this special grant. But you know what? Deep in my heart, I know $200 is not enough. That you really deserve more than $200. And there are times I wonder why it took so long for me to do this, for the government to do this. Because after all, I've visited many of you at your homes. I've seen the challenges that you face. But I guess everything has a time and everything has a place. And maybe the message is made more poignant, more significant by the fact that this is happening at a time of economic hardship and economic challenge for our country. The fact that in the midst of it we can reach out is really to say to you that, look, we recognize that you need it, and not even hardship will deter us from making it available to you. Your expenses far exceed $200 per child per month. I know that. But I ask that you be patient with us. And once this economy recovers, it is stronger. I will increase it because I know that it is not enough. You have carried your pain very silently. Yes, occasionally you may ask for some support, but the remarkable thing about you and your teachers is that you have never made the issue of granting you this grant or allowance a public one. You have suffered in silence over the years, and I am aware of it. And so, as much as I tell you that in my heart I know it is not enough, all I can comfort you by is that it is a modest but important start. There are times in my public life they say I'm creating a dependent society. I'm creating people who have to depend on the government for everything. And so there are those who criticize me for putting money aside to employ step workers. There are those who criticize for putting money aside to create the NICE program or the SMILES program. They say that all I'm doing is to create a society of dependence. But I think the permanent secretary said it well. We have a responsibility as a society and as a country to take care of those who cannot take care of themselves. If we can do that, and if we can look after those who are unable to look after themselves, then we will be saying to the world that we understand our human spirit, we understand our humanity, and we understand what compassion means. The strong can be stronger when help is extended to the weaker. And the strength of any society and any country is its willingness to assist those who are weakest among us, those who have the greatest challenges, the greatest difficulties. It is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength and of courage when we can reach out and assist, touch others, and make the difference in their lives. So this is not about dependence at all. This is all about reaching out to assist those who cannot, in their circumstances, help themselves in the way, perhaps, that they would have had their lives been very normal. As I said, this gesture is long overdue. I know that some of you are receiving support by way of the traditional public assistance, and I've asked the ministry that if there are some among you who are receiving support by way of the public assistance, I know it is slightly higher, that assistance should continue at that rate. Do not introduce a lower rate for those who are in receipt of that public assistance. So that has been made very clear to the ministry, and I hope that in time we can, as I indicated, make life far more comfortable to you. As I am nearing my tenure in political life, and as I have to think of the future, I am often asked about what kind of legacy that I would want to leave, or what I would want this country to remember me by. Now, I don't want you to believe that the end of that tenure is tomorrow or the day after or next 2 years. The matter of a decision on that tenure rests on the people of St. Lucia and myself when the right time comes. But I would wish, among other things, to be remembered as a person who pioneered social reform in this country. That there is value in being a social reformer. I think of the transformation we made in education, of making it possible for every child to have a place in a secondary school. I think this was such a great achievement for our country. I think of the efforts we made to tackle the problems of poverty, creating something called the Poverty Reduction Fund, now these days more sophisticated name, SSDF. I think of the fact that today we're going to have the most modern hospital infrastructure in this country, to modern hospitals. I think of the fact that we removed our people who are mentally challenged from depravity by constructing for them a new psychiatric facility. I think too of the advances made in education by making it possible for our children to get laptops so they can be no different from children elsewhere in the world. I think also about the varied assistance that has been extended, reaching out, for example, to parents and making a $500 available to them at the commencement of school. Because I want to see every child well-dressed going to school, looking good, looking decent, with good shoes, feeling proud they're going to school, and the parents in turn feeling satisfied that children look just as good as any other child. These are the little things. Of course, I am disappointed. I have disappointments. I wish we could have changed the laws more quickly than we are. I am anxious to introduce laws to protect our children. I'm sorry that this is taking so long. I want to really change the system of justice that it can be far kinder to our children when they get into difficulty. This is incomplete work. Because we just can't build a society by putting new roads, putting up new buildings. We have to build a society too by touching the hearts and minds of people. Teaching people that there is value in loving, that love means something. Teaching people there is value of respecting your neighbor, of reaching out to your neighbor, of being a good example to your neighbor. Teaching people that we have a responsibility for compassion, and compassion is not something that must be extended for convenience, that it must be a way of life. Teaching people that no matter what our differences may be, we can respect each other. These are simple things, but necessary things. How different it would be if we spend more time on making sure that the hearts and minds of our people are different from what we live and what we practice. What does this have to do with our differently able children? It simply means, too, that we have to value them even more, that they belong to all of us. They don't belong just to the parents and the teachers, but to all of us. That all of us need to be able to say to them too that we love them, even though they are differently abled. And you too need to be surprised, as I am sometimes, by them. I will never forget, last year we had a differently abled children at the residence of the Prime Minister for the usual Christmas treat. And I was taken to task by some of them. They said to me, Prime Minister, how come you gave laptops to ordinary school children and you did not give us laptops? Don't you know we want laptops too, and we want to use laptops? I was so shocked and so stunned. I had to apologize almost immediately. And I subsequently arranged for the Ministry of Education to give a group of them laptops. And I will never forget the joy in their faces on that day, because they felt on that occasion that we were being fair, we were not discriminating against them. But you and I have a responsibility. Let us love those children with all our hearts, with all our souls, with all our minds. They too are part of the treasure that we inherit. Thank you, and have a good afternoon.
I want to begin, first of all, by thanking the Ministry of Social Transformation, the PS and her team, for giving me the opportunity to say thank you. Listening to the Honorable Prime Minister, he has started the thanking process by recognizing two of the key pillars in the defense and protection of children who are differently abled, the parents and their teachers, the teachers of these children. While the Honorable Prime Minister was addressing us, some names flash across my mind, like the teacher Anne Sullivan, who was the famous teacher who literally rescued Helen Keller. I'm sure everyone is familiar with that great story. Okay? Too often we take our teachers for granted and do not give them enough of the kudos and the support that they need. But as the Prime Minister said, when it comes to the teachers of children who are differently abled, and particularly those who are multi-challenged, we need to lift them and place them on a platter and ask God to continue to give them the strength and the patience so that they can continue to try and mold and restore dignity and pride to these children, to their parents, and their communities and their nation. So, Honorable Prime Minister, just turning around and looking at you, I certainly endorsed your sentiments in respect to the teachers and the parents. The parents, well, we're all familiar with our situation in St. Lucia. In a lot of instances, they're single parents. The mother who happened to be also father, and it was just this morning I had a brief meeting with a young person who is a mother of two. Luckily for her, she has her husband as part on her side, but that they are living on limited income and they have a multi-disabled child. And we were going through the daily frustrations, and we had an arrangement for her to take this child twice for the week to the St. Lucia Blind Welfare Association. But there are times when she cannot because not having money for transportation. Yes, she's one of those, I'm sure, will meet the criteria, which will benefit from this grant, which I call GIFT, and many others. So, Honorable Prime Minister, I want to thank you and applaud you for this initiative. And as was established by previous speakers, Mr. Gossin and others, in this tough economic time, and I think the Deputy PS also says that usually the first cut is made in the social side of things. But the acting Prime Minister, who's my very good Prime Minister, the acting Minister of Social Transformation, my good friend, Mr. Kentry Jean-Pierre, he says that we really have to do everything we can this morning when I arrived a little bit earlier to ensure that the social side of our society, which represents the soul of our society, no matter how tough things are, that we give it priority. So I applaud you, Acting Minister, and your team. Your PS, whom I know is a strong advocate everywhere she has been. The children, I'm so proud of you. From Soufre, from VF4. You made me proud. You made all of us proud. Yes, indeed. Father, teacher, king, whatever we might call him, Jesus, I've never forgotten you. I've never forgotten us, because I was once a child with disability. Not as lucky as you are now, though. In my time, we didn't have all of these things that we now have, no matter how limited it seems. But no, he has not forgotten us, and And when you read the stories and your teachers tell you the stories, you are so important. You found reference to you in several parts of our Holy Scriptures. So you are special, and you are very important in the eyes of our Creator.